Good morning, students. Today I'm going to teach you the first unit in history, that is, Source of Medieval India. So keep a separate book for history and jot down the points which I'm teaching now so that it will be easy for you to study. Let's start from the base. What is history? History is recorded events of the past in chronological order. So, what do you mean by chronological? Number wise history. For example, there was a Chola king at that point. So, if we jot down the year from his birth to death, so that is called chronological order. History came from the Greek word historia, means learning by inquiry. So the history came from Greek word historia, and which means that without any inquiry, history is nothing. We just can't write a story of our own or imaginative story without inquiry. It is called just a story. If we inquire and write a history, it is known as history, a document. So, what do you mean by history? History means a recorded events of the past in chronological order. Next, history is divided into two classifications. One is prehistory and another one is history. Prehistory means the period of time before written records, and history means the recorded documents of events. So, prehistory means the period which is written before records. There is nothing recorded, but we say that it is a history. Once it was happened, but it is not recorded. That is called prehistory. And history means it is recorded, it is a document, we cannot be erased about that history. So that is called history events. So our focus is all on Indian history. Therefore, let's discuss the classification of Indian history first. Okay, Indian history is divided into three: the Hindu age, the Muslim age, and the British age. So these ages was later called as ancient period. For Hindu age it is called ancient period, the Muslim age it is called medieval period, and the British age it is called modern period. So in this lesson, we are mostly concentrating on medieval period because in your 6th standard you have learnt ancient period. In your 8th standard you will learn modern period, and now in 7th standard we are concentrating on medieval period. So we'll look through and we'll concentrate on medieval period. This medieval period is divided into two: early medieval period and later medieval period. Early medieval period is started from 1700 to 1200. It's a common era. And later medieval period starts from 1200 to 1700, and this is common era. Now, let me ask you one question, students. Have you seen 25 paise coin or 2 rupees note? Have you listened to the story of your grandfather saying 25 paise is a big amount? Yes, these currencies were once used for shopping for 1 month. Have you ever thought of buying 1 month things with 25 paise? Yes, your grandfathers did. But now it is not worth even for a chocolate, right? You can't buy a chocolate with 25 paise now. Today we need at least 10 rupees for a good chocolate, not 25 paise. Once there was a time when we brought chocolate for 25 paise, but now 25 paise have disappeared. Though our elders saved these 25 paise during 21st century, it is not because the 25 paise is worthy, but it is the hidden history of your elder generation. Therefore, this 25 paise is the source of your grandfather and grandmother. It's a source of their lifetime. Now, look at the title of our first unit: Source of Medieval Period. So, you know what is source. Like 25 paise for grandfather is a source, then our source of 12th century or 13th century, what are they? What are the sources of that century? We are looking through these in this lesson. So this source is divided into two sections: primary source and secondary source. So what is primary source? The first hand information, who is giving the first information, is called primary source. What do you mean by secondary source? The second person who is giving information. For example, if a foreign person is visiting Kanyakumari district and he is wandering everywhere and he writes a book, so that is secondary source. Okay. Now, what is primary source? It's a first person information, as I told you. So under this we have inspiration, monuments and coins. Under secondary source we have literary works, chronicles, travelers, biographies, autobiographies. So in this video I will cover the inspiration, monuments and coins under primary source in medieval period. Now let's go into the text. Children, I have shown the textbook in this video so that you can understand what I am reading. Okay, now let's go to the text. The periods from AD Common Era 700 to 1200 and from AD Common Era 1200 to 1700 are classified as early medieval and later medieval periods respectively in Indian history. So as I told you, in this topic we are concentrating on medieval India. So this medieval India is classified into two: early medieval and later medieval period. Early medieval period starts from Common Era 700 to 1200 and later medieval period starts from Common Era 1200 to 1700. Numerous and varied sources are fortunately available to the historians engaging in the study of medieval India. There are a number of sources available in Indian history to study the medieval time. Added to the information that can be gleaned from inscriptions, monuments, and coins are the accounts left by Arab, Persian, and Turkish chroniclers. So these inscriptions, monuments and coins are left by Arab, Persian and Turkish chronicles. So who are chroniclers? They are a person who writes records or accounts of historical events. Okay. Then the next line. These accounts are rich in detail and have given first-hand information on the life of kings, though they provide very little information on the life of the common people. So these accounts, which means inscriptions, monuments and coins, in these things the first information is all about the life of king. But there is only little information about the life of common people. Okay, large amount of information is about the life of king and little amount of information is about common people. The opinions of the courtiers and chroniclers are often one-sided, written in a hyperbolic language exaggerating the king's achievement. So what do you mean by courtiers? A person who attends a royal court as a companion or advisor to the king or queen. What do you mean by chroniclers? As I told you, a person who writes account or historical events. So the opinion of the courtiers and chroniclers are often one-sided. So these courtiers and chroniclers are often support the king. So they will praise the king. What do you mean by hyperbolic, exaggerating words? So the person will not be like the same, but they will exaggerate their power. So courtiers and chroniclers, they do the same. They have the hyperbolic language to praise the king. What are the primary source I have told you? Inscription, monuments and coins. First we'll look to inscription. What is the definition of inscription? Inscriptions are writings encarved on solid surface such as rocks, stones, temple, walls and metals. Why they are using solid surface such as rocks, stones, temple, walls and metals to write? Because in solid surface they cannot be erased. So for what purpose these inscriptions are used? The king's royal degrees, dedication and donations, monuments raised in commemoration of warriors in wars. Those built in memory of degreased warriors contain rich information about the certain era. So, this inscription is used for degrees. So, what do you mean by degrees? Official orders passed by the kings. I have given the Tamil meaning in this video, so you can look through it. Okay. Degrees means official orders passed by the kings, and the dedication means to serve, and donation monuments raised in commemoration of warriors in wars. So in those days there will be more wars happening now and then. So in that war, who king will give inscription for the warriors. Okay, so various types of lands gifted by the Chola kings are known from the inscription and copper plates. So the Chola king will give the gift of lands to the people with the help of inscription and copper plates. And what are the inscription and copper plates the Chola king have given? Let's see. First one is Vellanvage, the land of non-Brahmin proprietors. Who are non-Brahmin? The person who did agriculture in those days. The second one is Brahmadiya, the land gifted to Brahmins. The third one is Shalabhoga, land for the maintenance of a school. The fourth one is Devadana, land gifted to temples. And the last one is Pallichandam, land donated to Jaina institutions. Children, these are the main and important gifts given to the people by Chola king. Children, study these 5 gifts given by Chola king. It will come in your 1 mark. Okay. Now, let's see what is copper plate. Copper plate grains which were treated as legal documents have signified source value. So these copper plates were used as a legal document. Now we have paper, pen and typewriting, everything. But in those days they used copper plates for that. That is a legal document for the court or for the king. Okay. The Islamic Persian practices and the relatively high cost of copper plates made palm leaf and paper cheaper alternatives from 13th century. So Islamic Persian practiced these copper plates, and this Islamic Persian practices relatively high cost of copper plates, and they made the palm leaf and paper cheaper alternatives from 13th century. Several copper plate grains issued during the later Chola period record gifts to individual priests or teachers who were Hindu, Buddhist or Jain, or to persons of eminence. So these copper plates were issued during the Chola period, which starts from 10th to 13th century. In this Chola period, the recorded gifts were given to the priests and the teachers who were Hindu, Buddhist or Jain, or the persons of eminence. Eminence, what do you mean by eminence? Eminence means educated people in the society. Both the giver and the receiver are very elaborately described. So, in this copper plate, there will be information about the giver and the receiver, who is giving the copper plate and who is receiving the copper plate. By contrast, most stone inscriptions differ in their contents. So, the copper plate and the stone inscription both are different. So, what is stone inscription? In stone inscription, the beneficence of a donor is recorded. The major focus is upon the giver. So as I told you, the copper plate have the information about the giver and the receiver, who is giving the copper plate and who is receiving the copper plate. But in stone inscription, only the giver is concentrated. Only the giver's name is given and main focus is on giver. Good examples for stone inscriptions are Thiruvalangadu plates of Rajendra Chola I and the unbuilt plates of Sundra Chola are notable examples. And Uttiramerur inscriptions in Kanchipuram district provide details of the way in which the village administration was conducted. So here the village administration is the giver. So village administration is given importance in this stone inscription. The next topic is monuments. What do you mean by monuments? A statue, building, or other structure erected to a notable person or event is called monuments. So under monuments we have temples, palace, mosque, domes, forts, minars and minarets are called the collective name monuments. I have given the pictures accordingly so that you can understand what monuments are they. Okay. Next, the Sultans of Delhi introduced a new type of architecture. The monuments they built had arches, domes, and minarets as the main feature. So, the Sultans of Delhi introduced a new architecture. So, that architecture is a monument. To make them is a monument, they built arches, domes, and minarets to make a main feature of monuments. Okay. The inscriptions in these monuments contain rich information which can be used to construct the history. So, in these inscription, which means the Sultan of Delhi have introduced a new architecture. In that architecture, they have inscription. What do you mean by inscription? Writings carved on a solid surface such as rocks, stones, temple, walls and metals. So, in this architecture, they have inscriptions containing rich information. So, the information is very rich to conduct the history. There are famous temples in medieval period. Let's see what are they. First is Khajuraho monuments in Madhya Pradesh and temples in Konark in Odisha and Dilwara in Mount Abu, Rajasthan. These temples have the religion-centered cultural evolution in northern India. So these temples have religion-centered monuments. Next is temples in Tanjavur, Brihadeshwara, Gangaikonda, Cholapuram and Dharasuram simples the magnificent structures the later Cholas built in Tamil Nadu. Next is Vitla and Virupaksha temples at Hampi similarly speaks about the contribution of Vijayanagara rulers. These rulers were ruled during 15th century. Next we look at famous mosque monuments. Quatwul Islam Masjid, Mot Ki Masjid, Jama Masjid, Fatpur Sikri Dargah, all these are around Delhi, and Charminar at Hyderabad are the most important mosques belonging to the medieval period. Next, we'll look at the most important historical forts at medieval period. They are Agra Fort, Chittoor Fort, Gwalior Fort and Delhi Red Fort as well as the forts of Dauladabad which is located in Aurangabad and Firoz Shah Kotla in Delhi. Next, we'll look at the most important palace in Jaipur at medieval period. They are Jaisalmer and Jodhpur signifies the greatness of Rajput dynasty. So, this palace talks about the Jaipur dynasty. The next monument is tomb. What do you mean by tomb? A monument to the memory of a dead person. So the most important tomb at medieval period are Qutub Minar and Ali Darwaza, which are the tombs for the Mughal rulers. Okay? And this tomb is called as the most important source of information. The last and final source and the primary source is coins. Okay. The picture and the legend on the coins convey the names of kings with their titles and portrays events, places, dates, dynastics and logos. So children, have you noticed the coins today? We have our lion capital of Ashoka and the symbol of price, right? Okay. But in those days, the coins contain pictures and the legends on the coins, which shows the name of the king and the kingdom, the date, the place, the events, and the logo of that particular kingdom. The composition of metals in the coins gives us the information on the economic condition of the emperor, which means the metal coins shows the information about the economic condition of the emperor. Mention of kings' achievements like military conquest, territorial expansion, trade links and religious faith can also be found in the coins, which means kings' achievements are also shown in the coins like military conquest, which means conquest in the act of military subjugation of an enemy by force of armies. So, one particular military force is subjugated the enemy. What do you mean by subjugation? Adimai in Tamil. Okay, so this picture is also added enclosed in the coin. The next is territorial expansion, which means relating to the ownership of an area of land or sea. So the king will have their own land, the sea. That picture is also included or enclosed in the coin. The next is trade link. Trade link means action of buying and selling goods. That symbol is also used in the coin. The fourth one is religious faith. Religious faith means they will have the religious symbol in the coin to show that this kingdom belongs to this religion, this particular religion. This particular kingdom is under or centered on this religion, to show that they will have the picture of religion on the coin. Muhammad Gauri had stamped the figure of goddess Lakshmi on his gold coins and had his name inscribed on it. This Muhammad Gauri had stamped goddess Lakshmi. It's a god. He stamped this goddess statue on his gold coin. And this gold coin talks about later Turkish invaders. What do you mean by invaders? The rulers. They like the religious outlook. So therefore, the Muhammad Gauri stamped the goddess of Lakshmi on the coin. This is copper jitals, which was used by Delhi sultans. A jital contains 3.6 grains of silver. 48 jitals were equal to 1 silver tanka. This silver tanka was introduced by Iltutmish, and the gold coins was introduced by Alauddin Khalij, and the copper token currency was introduced by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. This is all about coins. So we have gone through the primary source, the three primary source. What are they? Inscription. Yes, come on, repeat after me. Inscription, monuments, and coins. Now let's recall whatever we went through. So we started from the base. What is history? History is the recorded events of the past in chronological order, and it came from Greek word historia, which means learning in inquiry, and this history is divided into two: prehistory and history. Prehistory means which is not recorded, and history which is recorded and documented events. And then we studied Indian history. So this Indian history is divided into three: the Hindu age, the Muslim age, and the British age. These were later named as ancient period. The Muslim age was named as medieval period, and the British age was named as modern period. So in this topic, source of medieval India, we are concentrating on medieval period. So medieval period is divided into early medieval period and later medieval period. So early medieval period starts from 700 to 1200 Common Era, and later medieval period starts from 1200 to 1700 Common Era. Right, students? Can you recall everything? Okay. Next, we went to the title source of medieval period, and we divided it into two parts: primary source and secondary source. So under primary source, we have inscription, monuments, and coins. In that, we have covered primary source, the 3 points: inscription, monuments, and coins. Okay. So what is the description of inscription? Inscriptions are writings encarved on solid surface such as rocks, stones, temple, walls, and metals. What do you mean by monuments? A statue, building, or other structure erected to a notable person or events. And the last one is coins. Coins which have the picture and the legend of the king's name, the kingdom, the date, place, the events, and even the logo. And this coin also shows the king's achievements such as military conquest, territorial expansion, trade link, and religious faith. Thank you, children. In the next class, we'll look through the secondary source. Thank you.